Hi guys, welcome back to Paint with Josh. Today we did an 18 by 24 inch double overlapping portal waterfall into a seascape. It turned out fantastic. You obviously think so as well. That's why you clicked on the link. You want to learn how to paint this painting. So check the description down below, find all the colors you need. Make sure you get your canvas nice and wet. Get ready to throw some paint on it. Let's do it just like this. What happened? Where did it go? My goodness, it was so pretty, right? So, my name's Paint with Josh. I'm here to show you every single step and how to turn this canvas into what you just saw in the intro. So, you can see we've got a nice dry black canvas. It was already black from the store. Now, if you wanted to turn it black, if you only had white canvases and you wanted to turn it black, you need this. Liquitex Black Gesso, okay? Now, the Liquitex Black Gesso is acrylic paint and it dries very, very, very fast. And that way you can have a nice dry black canvas ready to go. Now this stuff is a little bit different. This is our Bob Ross Liquid Clear, right? And this clear oil paint will stay wet and allow our thick oil paints to kind of blend across that thing. So let's take off the lid. Right? I like to show you every single step. We're running out of this stuff. Man, I need to get some more, guys. We're running out. So, as you can see, without spilling it, there's not a lot left in the jar, right? So we need to go all the way down to the bottom. And even though it looks like I'm dunking in the whole bit of the thing, I'm only getting the last little teeny tiny bit of it. You can see it's how thick and like syrupy it is, right? Now we don't need a whole lot. I like to kind of deposit it, maybe stretch it, you know what I mean? And then we're gonna blend these guys in. So, wherever it is, we're gonna stretch it across the entire canvas. Now we don't wanna push so hard on the canvas that we're like stretching it in, right? But you do have to spread this stuff across. And it takes a minute or two to get it all the way spread and nice and evenly covered. So if you know how to do this section, feel free to move on. But first, click that like button, hit the share button, send it over to your favorite painter, your best cousin, your brother, your grandma, your sister, your mama, your dad. Send it over to everybody before you skip forward, okay? That's our deal. That's the deal. Now, all we're doing, a little bit of pressure, spreading around this paint all over the place. And you can see, right, some areas look very dry. Some areas look wet, but they're not completely covered. Like this looks wet right here, but I can tell there's some dry areas still. Right, so once you get the entire thing covered and you think you've done it well enough, we're gonna go over it for another minute or two just to make sure that we've got every single little teeny tiny pore in the canvas covered up. If you don't cover it well enough with the clear, it will dry all spotty and weird, right? So take the time, make sure your canvas is completely covered with a nice, thin, even coat. That way when you look at it, no matter where you look, it's all the same amount of clear or black, right? Once you start putting the clear on, it actually takes the canvas, a black canvas, and makes it look more black. Just like that. Now, you don't want it to be thick in any area. You can feel it as it drags across from different places to where it isn't. You can feel the difference. So the more you do it, the more practice you'll have at it. And I find that if you go, you know, horizontal with your brush versus like this, right? This isn't really dragging a lot of pressure behind it. That's got a lot of pressure behind it. So if you go back and forth sideways with the bristles of the brush, like that, right? Instead of vertical, whatever's more comfortable for you. And I'm constantly turning mine and crisscrossing and doing all of that stuff anyway. But once you get it all the way covered, go get some paper towels because we're gonna wipe off all the stuff that we just added to the canvas, right? And I know, it doesn't make any sense. Why would we put something on to then wipe it off? That doesn't make sense, Josh. Well, no matter if you're Paint with Josh or just starting out, right? You're gonna put on too much clear. And if you have too much clear, it becomes an issue later on. So let's clean off our brush. Now again, I like to show you everything. I have odorless mineral spirits. This looks just like this. Get it from Home Depot or Lowe's or wherever you go, right? Your local hardware store. I have a very thick plastic cup and it's filled to just about half. So again, even though it looks like I'm dunking the whole brush in, we're only really dipping in the tip of the bristles and then spinning it, getting out all the excess paint. You don't need all that excess in there. all that, the thinner, right? Now we're gonna take our brush, fling it into a trash can. Maybe I'll show you how, I have it in other videos, but you just shoot it into a trash can, kind of like you're towel whipping somebody, like whoosh, whip them with a towel like that, right into the trash can. Then you bring out your old nasty beater bucket. Now, my bucket has a golf ball basket in the bottom of it, and that just gives me a couple crisscross surfaces that I can beat the devil out of the brush, get it nice and clean, and then we're all set to go. Dab it off on a paper towel, of course. Gotta dab it on a paper towel. Now, before you do anything else, wipe off that excess clear. If you have too much, it becomes an issue later on. Now, paper towel. I use the Viva brand. I don't know about you guys. I like the Viva brand. Very soft. They don't leave a lot of linty bits on the canvas, right? Now, with a fair amount of pressure, we're trying to remove the excess, right? So we're pushing it just like that, all the way across, all the way across. Hi-ya! Get all that stuff off, all that excess clear that we don't need on our canvas. Now, in order to do this scene, we need to prepare what the undercolors are going to look like. So then when we paint with white, they'll show through. And I get this question all the time. So let's get a little bit of our Meeden crimson color out, right? Because that Meeden crimson is just gorgeous. And it's a little bit wet, so you just need the teeniest, tiniest little bit. Not even as much as the rest of our paint, right? And I'll show you the difference in the piles of paint. Today we're going to use our Winsor & Newton white, only because I ran out of everything else I had and I had to run to Michael's, and this is what they have. So, Winsor & Newton white, we're going to plop a big old chunk of that down there. Then, our Bob Ross crimson, only because we need a bit more of it on the palette. Squeeze this sucker up to the top. Again, this is, you guys wanted every single step. I'm showing you every single step, okay? Even the boring stuff. You can scroll through this bit if you want. Totally up to you. Let's see, we need our blue. So our Prussian blue. A big old deep dark blue color, just like that. And then maybe a little of our purple dioxazine, maybe? So I found this color. This is a Gamblin 1980 paint. So this painting will have Bob Ross, Winsor, and Gamblin on, and Meeden. 4 different paint brands on this painting, right? Gamblin Dioxazine, you can find it. This was like $9 or something like that. Over at Michael's, brand new jar. We're about to open up and put on a brand new tube anyway. Again, you can see I didn't even squeeze that much of it out. You don't need a lot, especially with that purple. Okay, now we have our canvas. We've got our paint. We need one more color though, otherwise we're not going to be able to make any bushes or anything. And here we go. I'll show you exactly how much paint I have and exactly what we're going to do. Let's do it, folks. Kick the box. There we go. Right, now, here's our palette. Nice and clean, right? We have our Meeden Lamp Black paint, okay? It's a very dark paint. We might use it for maybe a couple brushes. We probably won't use the sap green or the cad yellow. We will use our Meeden crimson and our Gamblin purple dioxazine, or dioxazine purple, whatever it's called. Our Prussian blue, our Alizarin crimson, midnight black, and titanium white. I'm gonna use all of those colors. Now, in order to prepare the canvas and get it looking right for what we need to do, let's go into our crimson, our Meeden crimson first. Gotta have that Meeden stuff. It's a different color than the other crimson, right? And maybe if we're gonna do this double portal, let's put our big chunk of Meeden right up in here. All we're gonna do is put it on there and start blending it out, right? Depending on how, watch this, put it over here. Right? I know I just went across, but you can't really see it, right? Even though there is paint right there, I just touched the canvas, but you can't really see it. So depending on how much paint you put is going to be the brightness of your clouds and background and all this other stuff, right? So let's take that crimson again, go back into our Meeden crimson, and let's just say if we're gonna do the one big portal up here, then we'll probably have clouds, then we'll have our water, so we wanna put a little stripe. This will be like the pink eye of our wave and the face of the wave as it goes out this way. All right, that's the face of our wave. So we'll have our big crasher rolling over with a bright eye of crimson like that, right? Boom, boom, boom. Just about 2 inches from the bottom, about a 2-inch stripe. And over here, we're probably about 2 brush lengths, right? Just kind of throwing it up. It doesn't have to all be the same. I promise you it doesn't. Just get it sort of like that, right? Sort of like that, and we'll be all right. Now, we'll come in here, and you can see I didn't even pull a whole bunch of the crimson paint. Same thing with our purple dioxazine. What the hell's the color? Dioxazine purple. Say it right, Josh. Dioxazine purple from Gamblin'. We'll come over here, we'll take that purple bit, and we'll start throwing it out here from the corner, dragging it in, right? It's very thick compared to the crimson, so you have to go back and grab more purple. Pull it back, right? The more you pull it, watch this, the more you'll cover that crimson bit and drag a bit through with your purpley color, right? Come in there like that. You can cut a line right through your crimson. So, on the edge, start to blend them together just with our pressure, right? We know we got a bunch of purple over here. We got some crimson-y purple mixage right here in the middle, but this whole side is still uncovered, right? We don't have anything down here yet. So let's get a bit of our Prussian blue now. Just a bit of that Prussian blue, nice deep dark blue, and a fair amount of it on the brush, enough to cover up all the other colors, right? And let's say, I mean, we probably had some bit under here, a bit of blue over there, but I want to leave another section so we can have like some bluey, purpley, pinky water, which is going to be really cool. Take the blue, kind of push it up into the purple, into the crimson, so it just kind of blends it a little bit. Doesn't need to be a straight, perfect line. Now, let's go back to the purple color. Haven't washed the brush once. Pulling the purple color back, right underneath the blue stripe, all the way up to the crimson-y stripe, right? Following that same bit, so we're not taking away too much of our crimson eye of our wave. So now we have blue, then we have purple, we have our crimson, but underneath is still uncovered. So let's go down, get a little bit more of our purple dioxazine purple from Gamblin' over on this side, right? And then maybe our Prussian blue over on this side. Drag them through, and a little of it through there. Pop, 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 pop. Doesn't all need to be the same. Bingo, bango. Don't want to touch too much of our purpley, pinkish eye. And just like that, guys, we're going to have an awesome painting to do. So let's wash off this brush. You can see it's very dark, very filled with color. We can't have that. So let's wash that thing off, and we'll be all ready to go. Now, this is normally, when you normally watch my live show, I would have done all of this prior, and then we turn the camera on, we're ready to go, right? Now, let's see. What do I always say? You guys gotta tell me where you're watching from and what's your favorite sandwich. Let me know in the comments as we grab our portal stencils, right? Now, I made this out of a TV box, right? Thousands of customizable streaming options. I made it out of a TV box and a 5-gallon bucket. I put a 5-gallon bucket on top of the box, traced out the circle, and then went through and cut it out with a very sharp blade, right? And that way, we'll have a little thing. And then I popped 2 holes, stuck a bit of rectangular cardboard in, bent it, taped it down. That way we got a little handle. Super easy. That's a 12-inch circle. Now this is an 8-inch circle. It's a cake pan that I found at the dollar store for, $1. And it's going to serve as our 8-inch eclipse circle, right? Very cool little deal. So all we need to do is make sure first that we have everything within reach, because once you're holding the stencils up there, you cannot move them. So you need to be able to reach over here or reach over here to get the stuff that you need. Now we're going to need a 1-inch brush. This is a PaintWithBram 1-inch brush, right? So we'll use this guy. Make sure that's within reach. And we need our little fan brush. Doesn't matter the size. I get the question all the time. And people go, what size brush is that? Well, it really doesn't matter, because this is a size 10, but this is smaller than the size 6 in the Bob Ross brush. So numbers don't matter compared to the manufacturer that you're using, right? Okay, so we'll take our 2 brushes, and we'll take our 2 cake pans, and first let's get our white brush loaded up. So we'll come down here, grab up our palette, pulling it down, not getting it all the way. We don't need a ton of paint. We just want it to be nice and thin and sharp at the end, right? Nice thin little bit. So it pulls all the bristles together, and that way they stay together and stay thin throughout our whole bit. All right, now, I'm gonna come over here. We'll set our little brush right down here so we can grab it up and use it. We have our 1-inch brush right over here on the table. And now let's take our portals, and I'm gonna put the big one down first, right up here, almost around the edge. You know what I mean? It's almost touching the edges of the canvas. And 12 inches on an 18-inch canvas is a big, 12 inches on a 24-inch canvas vertically is a big space. All right, let's take our other guy, and we'll put him right over here, about the same distance, even though you can't see it on this side. It's just about the same distance away as it is on that side. Same distance away on the top. We'll have a big area down here. We'll throw some clouds in and then put our ocean. You've seen the thing already. I'm about to paint. I don't even know what it looks like. Now, reach down, we grab our fan brush, and once we go across these colors, they're going to erupt with this white, right? So let's come over here, let's grab it, and let's start moving around our portal stencil. Boom, come down, we hit this guy, let's grab around him, we'll move over here, off the edge, just very lightly touching, because the more that you push, the bigger your outline is gonna be, and the bigger the outline, the less eclipsy it's going to look, all right? Boom, okay, all the way around. Ba-boom, ba-boom, did both those guys. Now, put that down, grab our 1-inch brush right here, and while our portals are still up, let's try to grab it and just pull out whatever we can grab, all right? We don't want it, whoop, don't you move, don't you dare move. We don't want it to be just a line. You want to have it be this little bit of aura of light, and in order to not go inside of your circle, you can keep your stencil up there, which makes it look really neat. You're not trying to pull off a huge amount of color, just a little bit, and that way, get out of there. Hold them down. That way we're not gonna make it too noticeable. I don't like them when they're too bright. Right? They're too bright to get too crazy. Now, we're gonna take away our middle guy, just like that. Look at that, blue, purple, pink on the top with that crimson-y color, you guys. Holy cow. Now we're gonna reload the brush, our little fan brush, reload it with a bit of white, just so we have a nice little crisp line. Make sure we're around our little deal, and then we're gonna come in here very lightly, so it's a very small little guy. Ready? Ba-boom! Look at that! That's fantastic. Really, if you set up your canvas prior, right, with your colors, and then you invite your friends and family, and you're like, come here, I'm gonna paint for you, I'm gonna do something special. You're like, watch me get the white. Whoop! Pow! You take it away, all these colors are right there. They're gonna look at you and go, how, you're a magician. How did you do that? Right? It's okay. Don't tell him it was Paint with Josh. It's fine. Don't tell him. I won't tell him if you won't tell him, okay? Now, that's a very cool little eclipsy deal, right? But I want to have a few more little streaky bits that come out in certain places, especially up here at the top. Right? It's a couple little streaky bits of light that are shooting out of the top there. Looks like a little crown on the guy almost. Right? You drag them out with your 1-inch brush, make it very soft. You can even come back in, do little taps. That way it gets smaller and smaller and smaller as it goes towards the side. You don't have to pull, you just do little bits, and then you drag them a little further and further and further with your brush. Now you have a little bit of excess brightness coming off of that guy. Maybe we'll throw a little bit coming off of this guy. Just a little excess of color. Right, make our aura stand out away from those little suns. Because all it is a sun with a moon that's crisscrossed in front of it, and another one's crisscrossed in front of that guy. Poor little things. There we go. Very lightly. Don't want to touch those portals. Don't want to touch the line too much, right? Now, without even washing off the brush, we're going to take the same amount of color, and let's pop in just a soft little bit of white back there and over here. Right? You can see there are two different colors already. Pink, and then you got more purpley bit down here, right? We're going to dab off our PaintWithBram brush. Didn't wash it, so you can still see the color on there, but we dabbed it off, so now there's not really transferring any color here. We're going to come up with a very light touch and just very lightly start to mix. Now, of course, everyone's very light is different, right? So I want to mix this first one until it's a little bit more. So maybe use a little bit more pressure, push it away, make it a little bit darker, right? Same thing over here, mixing it a little bit harder, a little bit more pressure, and that way it goes into a further away bit of cloud. Because it's not really a cloud. What we're doing is setting ourselves up for our awesome little moons, right? And if you've never seen how Paint with Josh does a moon, you're about to find out. We're going to take a filbert brush, just like this, right? We're going to get paint just on the one side. We don't need it on the other side. Just on one side, not the back side, just the front side. We'll take one of these guys, we'll come plop it up here like this. We'll plop it, and then we'll rotate it around. If you're good enough, you can do it in one full spin. Just like that. Boom! Beautiful little moon out there, right? Now, come back, load up the same side of the brush, not the other side, same side. Come over here to our purple moon, and plop and spin. Now, we'll have the same size moons in each portal. Just like that. Boom, boom, pow! Excellent. Love those little guys. Right? The more you go and spin outward, the more it's going to extend your circle, so be careful on how big you want your moons. Very neat. Let's go wash off that little filbert brush, and then we'll put them away. We don't need to use them for the whole rest of the painting. We don't need to use them. Now, let's go back with this little fan brush. Gonna load it back up, right? Haven't washed it off. Gonna load it right back up with some paint, pulling down from our pile into this little bit down here. And then come back and maybe do like a dragon-shaped cloud. Like come up here with some wing, maybe down, maybe we pop up, kind of like a little head. The guy will come over here. Right, it's just a little rudimentary shape with a bunch of color out there. That's all we're doing, right? Now we're gonna come back with this guy, and again, grab up the clouds. This time we're not gonna work so hard. Very lightly mix, and as we drag, you'll get some areas that'll be brighter, some areas that will be darker, right? Because we're not trying to over mix it all into the same amount of brightness like we did back here. We kind of overworked that one. This guy, we're leaving a little bit less, right? Just a little less up here. Wherever you want him to be. It's like flying out there. Now, grab a little bit more of our white onto our brush. Just a little bit, nothing crazy. Now, I don't want to do the same exact thing in this guy, so let's come over here and just pop in a little bit of color. Right? Just however you want your cloud to be. The only main thing that you have to worry about is leaving a little bit of darkness in between this color and this color, and making sure this guy's a little bit brighter than that guy is. That's all. That's all. That's it. So we'll come in with our brush. We'll come over here like that, and we'll start mixing it down. And as it mixes with all that purple underneath. It starts to get a little bit darker from its original white. Right? We're not trying to over mix it so much that we lose it all. And then underneath, you literally do whatever you want. The more you blend it down, the more color is going to come down, but also the darker and darker and darker it's going to get as it goes. Right? Very cool. Now, let's mix up a little bit of color. And you all know the colors that we like to use in order to make a shadow. It's equal parts of black, crimson, and blue, right? No matter what blue you have, equal parts of black, crimson, and blue. Now, I'm using the Bob Ross black, crimson, and blue, not the Meeden crimson or the Meeden black, okay? It's a major difference between those two. These are much more thick, and they'll make better for our trees anyway, for this part. The Meeden works better for later on. Now, we'll come over here, wiping off our brush. We'll go grab another fan brush. Just a little old guy, right? And we're going to go through our paint and wiggle it down, right? Wiggle it down through the paint, just like this. That way we get a nice amount of it on the brush. And then we'll come back up here, and we'll just start tapping in at a downward angle, though. Not straight onto the canvas. Not trying to come from underneath. Downward angle. Right? The more you go, the more you do, the more you fill in. We're starting to cover all that little bat-shaped, dragon-shaped cloud out there, making sure that we can't see any color beneath the bottom of our forest. Right? And you start to fill in all the spaces, just like that. Smush it on there. You get all these cool little, wicked little trees out there in the night. Very neat. Right? Make them look however you want. Now, let's go back over here. Since we've got the paint left on the palette, wiggle it down, come back through here, and maybe we pick up in a whole nother scene, right? They're not connected. It's a whole other scene that we've now picked up in, dropping in some more bits of our color. As we go down, we go up and down and dropping in, just flipping our brush over, and that way it'll get that nice fresh paint on the top. Nice sharp little tip tops of our trees. And now we've disconnected the color from the top from the bits on the bottom. So we're gonna grab a 2-inch brush, just like this. Bow! 2-inch brush, right? A little bit of pressure at the bottom, take away at the top. So we're not trying to drag it all the way up through our painting, right? Coming up here and we're taking it away. We're pushing and we're taking it away. Pushing, take it away. And take it away. Take it away, Sally. All right. I'm going to go over here like this. Same thing, just dragging. What the point of this is to very lightly soften the texture of these trees back here, right? And every so often you can get a couple little bits to drag up from a thick part of your tree that make it look like a bare exposed tree trunk at the top with just maybe like one little teeny branch on it, right? So we're gonna come in with the same brush. Haven't washed it, just, you heard me just dab it on a paper towel. Dab. It's not nobody knocking at the door, that's just the brush, right? So we'll come up here and we'll start to tap it and we'll bring it down. Little taps. I'm not trying to go the whole thing, and we're not using the whole 2-inch brush. Just the top couple bits, right? Top couple pieces as we soften this next bit. All we're doing, like a vertical typewriter. Soft, 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 soft. That way when we come in with our next bit of little cloud, it doesn't have to mix with all of that thick tree paint. Same thing over here. We have to make a soft area. Little bit of softness. Right? Now we're not trying to drag all the color down here, otherwise we're going to lose every bit of color that's underneath already. Just like that. Very cool. Get a little bit of soft bit of our tree back there. Now, let's come in with one little teeny tiny bit of light on our brush, just like this. And we'll say maybe there was a little bit of misty fog right in the back of our trees back here. Now, if you didn't mix up or tap your trees and you just all of a sudden put some misty fog back in there, it's not going to work as well. It won't blend the same. You want every step. I'm showing you every single step. So you got to follow every single step in order for it to get it to work, right? Now this stuff down here will just blend out a little bit more. Bang. So same thing, not even going to add any paint to the brush. You saw me do it. Let's come over here. Boom, 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 boom. Mix it up a little bit, spin it, rotate it. Not trying to make it even as bright as the clouds up top. And because we have this gray mix that we'd created, it's going to be this different color of a foggy, misty cloud versus our pretty clouds up above, separating it so we know they're not all the same, right? And have everything be the same. Now, here comes the fun part. Where do you want your little rivers to come from? Maybe one guy back here, he had just a little, like a far away falls back here, right? It was like, I don't know, he came out and then down the side, out and to the side, this far away little bit of falls. You don't really have to worry about what goes on back here because we're going to cover where the water's coming out of. Trust me. We'll come down here. I'm assuming if that much water came down and hit, we would have a little bit of mistiness, right? And so again, we'll take the brush that we haven't cleaned yet, still that, right? But we're going to dab it on a paper towel just to knock off any bit of, watch, there's no color coming off, right? So, even though it looks like there's a ton of color on there, we've knocked it all off, beat it off. There we go. Right into here, mixing it up. Now notice that I'm not trying to make these look exactly the same. I want them to be different, whether or not you have to leave a dark space in between or just not over mix it so this guy looks a little bit like that guy back there, right? You don't want them to look the same. Very lightly soften down our little bit of our waterfall. So it looks like it's off in the distance. It came out, fell down, mix it up into our little cloud. Boom, 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 boom. Now we need to leave a little spot of darkness, right? We can't have the same bright of white over here. You have to have a little shadow underneath your water, underneath your mist. So as we come out this way, right? We start coming down, we get wider and wider and wider. Very small at the end, wider and wider at the front here, in which case it will fall out into its own little waterfall again, but we're gonna need to get a bigger brush for that. Gotta have a bigger brush for that. Now that we know where our water is sitting, where our mist is in the back, we need to get a little bit of grassy color. So let's grab a little bit of white and maybe a little touch of that Meeden crimson paint. It's like a pinky paint, especially when you put that white in there. And we're gonna come down, notice the angle of the brush. It's not straight onto the canvas, right? We're tilted down. I've loaded it one way, so that way all the paint is on the bottom, right? Tapping it in like that so you don't have too much on there, because you can always add more. You can't take it away once it's up there, right? How far is this gonna stick out of my hat? Boom, we fixed it. Okay, let's come in with the brush and the side that we had pulled down on and tapped in. We're gonna hold down like this and maybe start tapping in little bits, right? It's just a little bit of paint on there. Then we're going to go underneath like a little typewriter. Underneath again, underneath again, underneath again, right? You don't want to come down so far that you touch all of those colors. Now, if you want it to be a bit brighter, get a little bit more white, a little bit more pink, and pop it down. All right, now that we know what our little thing is going to look like, we're trying to leave a little bit of darkness in between the grass and the water. You have to leave that little black line back in there, right? Absolute must. Do not try to cover it. Come over here. Maybe the same thing was happening. Actually, no, let's put our river in off of this guy first. Make it easy so we know where we're going to come down from, right? And come back, grab a little bit more of our paint. Let's start from the corner back here. Very, very low to the thing, right? We're using a very small brush, only about 1.5 inches from the bottom of the circle. We start back here, and as we go side to side, we get wider and wider and wider till we come out to the edge of our portal. And we got 2 rivers flowing from each side, and then this guy will fall down this way, but again, we'll get a bigger brush to do that. So, I like using a much bigger brush to do the waterfalls. We'll come off of this guy and work ourselves all the way down, way back there even, right? And the more you do, come back, you can tap in a little bit, just like a typewriter underneath. We're not trying to cover too much of it. We're not trying to fill it all in. Look at that, you got 2 little crisscrossy hills going in opposite directions. Now, boom, let's grab up our fan brush like this. Loading it full of paint, right? Overloading it. It's thick, it's chunky, it's got way too much on there. Now we're going to come out to the side, down. Out to the side, down, right? Little bits. Don't want it all to look the same. Of all of our water falling out of this little river. These little guys, we start sliding back. Little bits, right? So that way it looks like it's kind of tumultuous, and then it comes up and rolls over the edge. Same thing, let's load up the brush. Over here, this time we're going to go out the other way. Right and down. Out to the right and down, right and down. Little bits. Not everything has to be exactly the same, right? Again, taking our thicker white paint, pulling it out towards the side. So you have a little bit of rough water, and then it comes over the edge. Very cool. Right? All we're doing is very lightly letting the water come out and flow down however it wants to be. You don't need it to be super thick. You don't need it to be super thin either. Right? However it wants to come out and fall out of our little portals. It's very cool. And then you can always go back and brighten up little sections. Dropping it out, right? Now, let's take that same brush, since we have all that paint on it anyway. Now, let's try to wipe off the excess. Look at all that excess paint that we got to come off, and yet the brush is still covered in white, right? Let's come down here and let's catch these clouds, staying very close, but not covering our waterfall. You see me rotate the brush, spin it, turn it, pop it up here. Bam, 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 bam. Right, just like that. Now, again, staying above where our wave needs to be. These portals and clouds like to grow like crazy, so you don't have to go down too far. Otherwise, you're going to run out of space down here. Take our same brush. Haven't washed this one yet. Just keep dabbing it on a paper towel, and that way it doesn't have too much paint on it. Come in here, start mixing it down, pulling it, right? We're coming over, we're grabbing a bit, we're working it that way. Grabbing a bit of color, and we're working it that way. Grabbing a bit of color, and we're working it that way. Very softly, though. Right? Maybe we'll work it up into our waterfall, just a little bit. There we go. Little teeny tiny dark separator in there, though, right? Not everything has to be connected, that's for sure. Come in here, up into this guy. Counterclockwise circles, very light, sometimes bigger, right? You jump over a little bit, grab this guy, clockwise, work him over this way a little bit. However you want it to look. It's your painting. It's not my painting. It is 100% your painting. I think this is the 1049th painting I've ever painted. So, doesn't matter what mine looks like. We're here to teach you how to do yours, right? Now that we've got our backdrop of clouds, our backdrop of mist, right? People always ask me, how do you paint the mist? And I'm always asking you, what makes these trees stand out as in front of the mist that we're about to paint, right? What I mean is, what if we grabbed our bit, we came down like this? What is going to make this tree look like it's in front of those trees back there? Can you answer me? While I mix up some more of this paint, and you know the colors, it's black, crimson, and blue, all into this deep, dark pile right here. And we over mix it, scoop it up like a pancake, flip it over. Right? It's going to help you out when you're making pancakes. It's not going to make a difference because you're going to make, you're going to add the mix, and then you add the water, and then you added too much water, and so you add more mix. And now it's too dry, you added too much mix, and then you add more water. And then eventually you serve your family like 97 pancakes because you made an enormous amount of it, right? Sorry, I've done it. Everyone does it. It's fine. Mix up that dark mix of paint. Now, as we come over here and take our fan brush, run it through that paint like this, wiggling it down, same way that we did before, right? Getting it nice and loaded and thick. We come up here on an angle, and I try to zoom in and show you. And we tap in just a little bit on the corner, but the more you come down, the more you see my arm turn, and then I try to stay out of your way because we try to use the whole bit of the brush as we get down to the bottom, flipping it, rotating it back and forth, each time slapping it up against the canvas to make our little upward facing trees. Now we're gonna go back and highlight these trees, so it doesn't matter what it looks like. Right? All we need is a big, thick, shadowy mess of a tree right there. We'll come back, we'll load up our brush again, wiggle it down, right? And maybe perhaps, just perhaps, we had one off of this guy hiding where our little waterfall was coming from. So let's cut right through the waterfall, bring him right down here in the front. Now, I asked you the question, I don't know if you answered me or if you've figured it out yet, but what makes these trees look like they're in front? Not only the height and the base, like everyone probably said, but the mist, right? If we don't have that foggy mist in the background, this same color is the same as that color. Therefore, they won't stand out as in front if you don't have that mistiness. Let's come in here. Let's tap in little baby bits as we go down, right? Start covering up that tree, that waterfall, all the things, all the little bits of river, all get covered. Everything that we didn't paint is behind this tree, right? You don't have to paint every single thing as we're going forward. I used to do it in the beginning. I would try to paint, and I'd paint the whole waterfall, and maybe I'd put some rocks, and then I'd do some more stuff, and then I'd get to the front and go, oh shoot, I need to put a tree over all of that thick paint right there, right? And that's not gonna work. Let's do one more little guy. Right down through there. Perfect. Pop him in just to hide a little bit of waterfall that we had sticking out that was left, right? Come in, drop him down. You can even pop him out over all those clouds. Again, these clouds, that mist, all that stuff allows these trees to stand out as in front of everything else. You can get a little bit, little baby branch up there on the top. Right? They don't have to look perfect, but you do have to have a bit of that darkness underneath whatever highlights you put up there. Now, since we just have a little bit more, let's kit these guys. And why don't we come down like this? Just a giant thing. There's going to be one bush that holds both of these trees. When we come down, and the more we go, the more we go, the more we push in, push in, push in. Make it thicker at the base, thinner at the top. That's a skinny tree. I like that. All right, we'll come over here like this. We'll do another guy kind of next to him, maybe not as tall. A little bit of a lean. We'll come down, 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 pushing in as we get down to the bottom, making them thicker as we get down there. Very, very nice. Very nice. I'm going to make sure they're dark. Now, with the last little bit of this color that's on our palette, maybe we can use the rest of this darkness too, if we can get some of it off of our brush. Scrape it all up, right? That's all usable paint right there. Boom, that's a good amount. That's perfect for the bush that we need anyway. Let's come over here and grab our Bob Ross half round brush, just like that. I'm gonna pop it into the very the thickest part of that bush, making it as gross and chunky as possible. Then we're gonna come up here and start to pop out and then drag down. Little baby bits, right? What makes these little baby bits stand out is in front of those clouds. Oh, the misty bit of the cloud, exactly. Droop them down. They're hanging over, hanging off the side. We might have enough to do one more little guy over here. Pop him down. Little hanging gardens of Joshalon as we start hanging down over the edges of these things. They don't need to go down too far, but you do have to have some darkness there. So let's mix up a bit more of that dark mix, and you know what the mix is. It's crimson, black, and blue, of course. So now the next time you come watch one of my live streams, and I ask you what those three dark colors are, you're going to know right off the bat what they are. Mix it up. Nice, thick, chunky amount. Come back in with our... Are you kidding me? I just dropped my knife, and it hit my sock. It hit my poor sock. Ah! Right on the top. Okay, let's come over here. Dab into this guy. Pop off a couple little bushes. And remember, the lighter touch that you have, the more little bits they're going to hang off the bottom. Right? Just like that. Very cool. Same thing over here. One last little bit as we cover up from where our water was coming from. Having it droop out. Kind of got a bush at the base of this tree. just falling out wherever you want them to be. They don't all have to be the same. And just like that, very cool. Let's wash off this brush along with most of the other brushes. So I'll probably cut this part out of the video like that. All right, guys, we're back with clean brushes. Now let's go into our liquid white, just a little bit of the liquid white, and a little bit of our Prussian blue over here. Now, we're gonna use this as our bluey, shadowy bit. So you don't wanna have any white on your brush, but you do wanna have the right amount of mixture of the whatever oil color you're mixing with and the liquid white. It's a vital mix. Okay, so what about these guys over here? A little bluey bit off to the side, maybe a little bluey bit underneath, right? It's popping down, but we're not trying to cover up all of the dark spots, right? You don't want to cover up all of those dark spaces because that's going to be bad. You'll have no depth left in your bush if you're covering up every bit of black that we put down, right? You got to be able to reach inside past those blue bits and grab something and pull it out. That's how you got to keep that depth in there. Now let's go back with our pinky bits. All right, so we'll get a little bit more of our liquid white on that same brush. Come back over here, grab some of our crimson, and let's go mix it into our, oh yeah, right over here into our titanium white. Now we'll have this kind of thick and also thin bit that we can pop off onto our little bushes wherever they might get some light from their moons. Very cool. Very cool. And you want to make sure go over a little bit of your shadowy area, a little bit of your bright area, and then kind of crisscross a little. Come back in here. Maybe we got a couple little bits up here on the tip tops that are all brightened up. To fall down. A couple little pieces get lit in every little plane. Bang. Very cool. Now let's get a little bit more of that liquid white since we're running low. Come back into the Meeden crimson over here. Snag it up. Come back over to our white just a little bit. And let's get this beauty of a guy over here. A couple little mini taps, right? Not rough. When we first smush them on, they're a lot of pressure, right? These guys, just barely tapping. Little baby taps. Sometimes they don't even come off the brush, right? Little baby bits just fall, dangle down. Very cool. Let's wash that brush off like that. Let's go back, grab one of our liner brushes. Now, if you have the gigantically long PaintWithBram liner brush, you can grab that one because I'll use that one for right now. Now I'm going to show you just how insanely long this liner brush is. I went and dipped it into my odorless mineral spirits and then over into my Meeden lamp black paint. And now I'm kind of squiggling it around, twisting it, rotating it, getting it to come off, right? And then you have this enormous, this thing, look at it, try to find it, there we go. Look at how long the end of that thing is. Now we'll come up here, grab our tree, and go out into the the lighter areas, right? If you try to go up into all that dark paint of our trees, you're gonna lose all of your branches. So start, maybe come out into the clouds. Not every piece has to be lit, you know what I mean? You don't have to see every branch. But if you don't have any branches out into the light parts and they're just out into the darkness, you're not really gonna be able to see much, you know what I mean? You're gonna be able to see many branches out there if you can't follow them from the light through the dark and maybe out into the light again. Look at this brush though, like seriously, it throws off the most amazing little branches you've ever seen. I just did the whole tree with one load of the brush and it's still got a bunch of paint in there. I can still do different things. Watch, I'm gonna add my signature right here. We'll pop in the little signature right away, right over here. Oh, you know what? On these ones, I like to put them down here in the bottom. Either way, in any case, we could do it with all the brush, with all the paint that's still on this brush. Come back up here, drag off another little branch, another little bit, right? How many branches does your trees have? Totally up to you. Now let's go highlight those guys. Let's go highlight those guys. Wash off our PaintWithBram brush. And get these bristles all dry again. There we go. Now, we're gonna grab our palette knife. Let's go back over here. Grab a little bit of that pinky color and put it on the bright side of our moons. Right, so our moons are over here. It means we're gonna touch this side of our trees. Just the littlest bit with that bright pinky color. Right, the white and the crimson from the Meeden set. Just a little touch. You don't trying to cover up all of the tree. You don't need to cover up all of the dark bit. right? Just a little touch of white in our pink color just to brighten it up a smidge. Just a smidge. Now, off of this other guy, let's use that blue. Take our blue and our white over here. Do that Prussian blue and white mix down like that. There we go. That's pretty right there. Come off of this guy. Actually, let's go with this guy like this. Pop, 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 pop. Just like that. All the way up to the top. Doesn't even matter. Right? You don't need a whole lot of paint. You don't need a whole lot of pops. Right? Little bits out here on our branchies. Just indicating there's some highlight on some of these guys. You don't need to highlight every bit. Not every turn, not every piece has to be highlighted, so don't worry about it now. All right, now, one little chunk in here. Why don't we come in with a bit of this white and pink mix. All right, just like that. We'll make a little tree trunk for these guys. Just by touching different places. Doesn't all have to be the same. And we're gonna end up covering up a lot of them, so don't worry if you overdo too much of it, right? Let's see. Let's come back in here. We need to grab up our fan brush, small little fan brush. And in order to make our highlights and our trees stand out, we need to go into the blue first. All right, so we get our blue and our liquid white. You can't have just one or the other. It's not gonna work. You need both. And I say that in my streams all the time. Come over here like this, tapping onto the backside, away from our light, away from our moon. We'll tap in a couple little bits, and you don't need to be rough. You need to have a very light little touch. All right, the more you go down, the more we can kind of brighten up, but you're not trying to cover up every single bit of the tree. Not every piece has to be covered. You can go over your tree trunks and stuff. It's all up to you what you want to show, right? Bam, bam, bam. How much do you want your tree to light up? And you don't want to cover all of the deep dark areas. And now you can see that the brush starts to get overloaded with that dark paint. Every time that we touch it, it drops off a bit of the blue and picks up a bit of the darkness, right? So let's wipe it off on a paper towel real rough. And we'll come back in a little bit more liquid white into that blue pile again. Over here, right? These guys just might need a couple little bits of brightness in here. Again, not too many. You don't want to make them look too bright. Come over here like that. You have to be able to reach inside your tree and grab that trunk. And you can't do that if all the bits of branches are all blue. You need some deep dark spaces in there to be able to reach in and grab them, right? So don't overdo it with the brightness. Now let's wipe that off real rough again. Come back over here. Grab up our liquid white into our titanium white. And let's grab some of that crimson over here too. I like that pinky color. Over there like that. Remember, you've got to dab it in so all of the brush is the same amount of pinkiness, and it's very liquidy wet paint. And we come off of this guy and we start tapping up very lightly on his little branchies. We don't need to show all of the guy on that side. He's hidden. His bottom is all hidden in the shadows of this guy, right? So we'll come over here, tap, just like that. Very light little things. All we're trying to do is get our brush to attach to those big, thick, chunky fingers of paint that we have in our dark spots, right, that are sitting out there waiting for our highlight. Oh, so pretty. So pretty. It's your light and your blue, right? And you go over your blue spot just a little bit with the light areas. That way it's trying to grab its way around. Very cool, guys. Very cool. Now, one more little touch of our liquid white, and then we'll get to our Seascape, and then we'll be done. This turned into a long one right here. Come over there like that. Over here like this. Tapping onto the right side of our trunk, and then little baby taps upward. And each one, we're not trying to cover up too much of our tree trunks or anything like that. Very light little pressure. Tap, 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 tap. Boom! Cool little thing right there. Very neat. Now, here comes my favorite part, doing the Seascape bit. All right, so we're going to wash off our little fan brush. We're going to load the same fan brush up, but now we need to kind of clean up our palette. So let's get all of this light color that we don't need. It's all wet and sloppy from that liquid white. All this stuff that we made wet with that liquid white, again, we need to get rid of all of it. Take it out. All right, the only part that we didn't really touch was this black section. We're going to need that big old dark pile. So let's not get rid of that dark pile of paint just yet. Okay? Not just yet. But what I'm going to do, since I'm a clean freak, is I'm going to clean up this bit all over this palette, and I'll be right back. There we go. All right. That's better. That is better. Okay, and we've got our dark pile that we mixed up from our blue, black, and crimson. And now we're going to take our little fan brush again. We're going to come back in here and grab up our white. Just like this, right? Now, I'm going to grab my maul stick. If you don't know what a maul stick is, it's back in the day, like in Da Vinci times, right? They had these giant easels, and it would have this bar, kind of like a library ladder where you could slide it across your easel and then rest your hand and do little details and stuff. I don't have the kind of budget for that. I'm sure you guys don't have big giant easels for that either. So I found a yardstick at Home Depot for like $2, and we're going to use this to make a little straight line is all we need to do, right? Now, right here at the peak of our wave and at the base of our clouds, leaving a little bit of darkness underneath. The more you leave, the darker it looks under there, the more depth you have and stuff. But we also don't want to run out of room down at the bottom. We're going to take our little brush, I'm going to start in here, little baby line, just over to the side. Don't even have to go all the way across. All right, and what we're going to try to do now is make a little triangle. So this guy will be a little thicker on the bottom, and then a little thinner as it gets to the top. And the more and more and more we go, the more it'll spread and drag across. Now we'll take our 1-inch brush like this, grab it, fair amount of pressure, drag it as straight off as you could be across your whole thing. Now, as long as you don't overdo it, you'll have some white, you'll have some dark, you'll have some lighter colors. It could be a very far away wave off in the distance, right? It could be. You never know. So don't overdo it. That's the point. Now let's come in here and let's go a little bit of a peak back here. So a little touch, just like that, like a little mustache. Fill it backwards off its mustachy side. Come off the next guy, little mustache again. As long as you got a bit of darkness underneath here, you'll be good. Take him, scoot him back. Can we get another mustache in? I'm pretty sure we can. All right, we'll come over here a little bit higher. A little bit more of a mustache. And again, make sure you've got that darkness in there and you can literally just wipe it because we have that dark paint underneath. Back and take it away. All you got to do, don't worry about them being perfect. We're going to go back and soften everything anyway. All right, so we come back and we start sliding it back. The more you drag your brush, the more it's going to drag the color back. You have to have that shadow back there. Otherwise, it's not going to make any sense, okay? Now, we're going to switch to our bigger brush, just like this, and we'll make our last big old crasher out of here, right? So we'll come inside, a little bit of our white paint right here onto our fan brush. And let's say, remember, I want to keep the eye of my wave in here. So let's say we had it, we came down, just like that. Taking this guy and again, sliding it back towards our next bit of wave. And eventually we're going to hit a little pivot point right over here, right? I always say it. I always ask you guys in the live streams, what's this little spot called right here? It's called a pivot point. And I'll show you when we get over there as we start sliding this guy backwards, right? Not straight up, not straight to the side. All depends on how you want your water to look. All right, start sliding. And the more you go to the side, the more flat it gets until we hit our little first spot. Now we're going to pivot off of that and start coming back to the same spot, just like the center of a clock. All right, so we went out, 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 coming back and starting at the same place again is vital, right? And we're eventually going to grab this guy and slide him down. He'll be part of our wave over here, and then these guys will go off in the other direction, right? We'll get our little bit of our water starting to build from this side. We're basically making these little mustache shapes. We're just looking down on it from above right here. Now, let's load up our brush again, a little bit more of that white into here. And then we're going to come up and touch right at the base, right? We're going to come up, we're going to, okay, my wave is going to crash over right there. So I'm going to touch the brush to the canvas and then flick it. That's it. Just let it flick. Grab it again, flick it over. Grab it, flick it. Grab it, flick it. That's all you need. A little bit of an angle, right? Now we're going to rotate the brush around, touch it again, flick it again. That's it, really. Now, this is our second pivot point where we're going to have to come back, start in the same spot and go lower and lower and lower and lower, rotating our brush around, having it curve into this rotating bit of water, and it ends up looking like a little heart like that, right? It's very cool. Now, with just the last bit of color that's on the brush, so it's not too bright, we can come in here and add it into our eye of our wave. Now, You get to decide what you want the eye of your wave to look like. Here's the only rule. When we bring out this brush, I start from the back and we'll work our way forward. You don't want to allow the color to touch the color. You have to have the dark separator. I say it all the time. Okay, we're going to come back here. We're going to start to soften these little waves. Now these guys, as we push them back, they're going to want to grow. So I hope you left enough room to leave them back in there, right? That way they've got a little shadow back in there. Start to soften themselves and pull them off to the side. This little peak over here, they don't have to be perfect, guys, honestly. Down in here, start to slide it back, slide it back, slide it back, slide it back, slide it back. Boom, very softly. Come in again, grabbing it, following the same little brushy angles, sliding it back, just softening taking away the texture of the fan brush and turning it into a soft bit of water, right? That's all we're doing, really. So now that we've done that, we can come in here and we've talked about these dark separators from there to there to there to there, there, right? They're all over the canvas, all over the place. Now, when we start to mix up our little eye, it's going to want to grow. Everyone knows that. As soon as you touch it with the brush, it wants to grow. So we got to be very careful about how close we're going to let it get up to the top, right? It'll leave that little bit of darkness. Now, the smaller the dark area, the better it looks, right? But you gotta leave it in there. It's gotta be there. Don't overdo it. Okay, let's mix this guy down. Again, getting lighter and lighter and lighter. That way the color doesn't come down this way. This is gonna be our wave down here. So we don't need all the brightness down there just yet, right? Now, take this guy, I'm gonna pull him off to the side, over there. Boom, 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 guys. Nice and soft. No one's paying attention to these details out here. They're going to be looking right here in the front. Now, let's take that fan brush again. Grab up a little bit of paint on it. Just a little touch. Nothing too crazy, right? Now, we need to decide where we came down and landed right here. So, let's say our wave smack down upon the sand right there. Make about a 4 to 5 inch streak with our brush. Go underneath it. Again, 4 to 5 inch streak. Underneath it, 4 to 5 inch, 4 to 5 inch, 4 to 5 inch, 4 to 5 inch. Each time, moving over like little steps, right? Trying to place it out as easy as I can show you. Now, once you get over here, you can start to have a little angle to it, a little bit more paint on the brush, a little bit more pressure as you drag it and start to fill up what you want your wave to look like, right? All we're doing is adding our little foamy bits of rotating water. Now, the more that we get into the center, the more you're going to want to make your little circle, right? This is exactly what we're doing. We're making circles with our brush, except we're only contacting it in one little spot of the canvas, right? So, if we go like this, and we come like that, imagine making this whole big circle, and we come around over here, and then contact it again just a little bit, right? We're getting tighter and tighter and tighter, like a spiral. So we're making this whole big circle, and then coming in, contacting again, just a little bit in, contacting in. And each time our circle is getting smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller. So as we come in here, we can come like this, and our little bits get tighter and tighter and tighter and tighter. Right? Just like that. Rolling that water in. Now you can grab it and start to shape what you want your foam to look like, how you want your wave to play out. Comes out this way. Right? Very cool. All depends on you. No one else, but you get to decide. Right? And then if you come in here and you want it a little bit brighter, you just push a little harder on your brush. Right? Change the angles. Go up here. Don't get rid of all those little dark separators in there. They're taking the wave and keeping it separate from the eye. The foam and the eye have to stay separate. Same as the eye and the top of the water. This wave and that wave. Everything's got to stay apart from each other. All right, let's take one more little bit of white. A little chunky piece of white right on the top. And right over here, we're going to touch and flick again. Just having a little bit of white, a little bit of light that we're not going to over mix. Right, and as we droop it down, slinging it off to the side. Looks like it's much brighter up there than it is down at the base of the water. And again, from our little pivot point, just softening it down. That's it. That's all you gotta do. Until you like the way that it looks, okay? Now, let's come in, since we have the paint on the brush, and go about a 1/4 inch underneath the rest of our color out here. The more that you pull down, got all that purple mix down in there, is gonna be really cool. Now, here's the question. I'm gonna tell you 3 things that we're gonna do. We're gonna pull down. Then we're going to pull one way, then we're going to pull the other way, or pull this way and that way, depending on if you've ever seen my show before. So, when we pull down, do we do a very light amount of pressure, or do we do a hard amount of pressure? So, type in the comments right now, light or hard, And I'll wait till you're done. Right? So I'll show you both ways here. Let's do it light. We'll just say that we went through lightly with some pressure, lightly across the side, lightly across the side. And then we'll see. I don't think that really looks like sand, right? I don't think you would say so either. So let's try it with hard pressure. Really push it down, right? Mixing it, blending it, pushing it down hard, leaving that little separation in between. Now it looks more like an aurora borealis almost, right? It's very cool though. So what we need to do is slide it, not towards, but away from the wave first. Right? Now you've pretty much got your sand laid out, but this little dark separator is way too big. It doesn't look right. So we do our last final step and we slide our sand back towards our color. Again, not trying to touch this color with that color. Leaving that little darkness in between, but trying to make it just as small as you can. Just as little as possible. Right? Boom, boom, boom. Now, one more bit before we do our spray. Take a little bit of white, our titanium white, just pure titanium white. Splash it down right here. Pull it down exactly like we did. Pull it away from the wave like we did before, and then slide it towards the wave. And that way we'll have a little bit brighter section where our water is crashing down. It'll look like more of a reflection than the sand off on our other side over here. All right, now let's do this little thing. What in the goodness is in that brush? There we go. All right, we've come in, we've done all that. Now let's soften our bit of water to make it look like it's a finished product, right? We'll come in here like this, very softly, like velvet. Just very soft little touches as we come in there, pulling it back, taking any little brush strokes out. And all of a sudden you've got this wicked awesome wave. Now we've got to go back to our dark mix that we didn't get rid of from the last time, right? Just get a little bit of this darkness onto our brush. Don't need a whole lot. You can always go back and add more. You can never take it away once it's up there. Right? We come in just underneath. We're kind of connecting along this dark separator and running all the way under. And so we can nab it up very lightly and start holding our water up. Right? All of this spray is holding up our water and catching it all. And then when we get down here, you just go crazy. Nothing about it. Just get the darkness everywhere. It's going to be our splashing, crazy bit of water. Right? And what if you can imagine, if you took an S and you stretched it, you would have this little S-shape curve, right? Take a little S like that. That's the shape that you got to look for and that you're searching for like that, right? Now let's come back in, grab a little bit of our liquid white, back into our titanium white right down here as we tap it in, get it nice and sloppy. Now we're going to come off the tip top of that bit, and the higher we go, the more you push. You get that crazy bit of water as it's coming over the edge. Now we start tracking down all of our little shadows, and we're slapping and slapping and slapping. And the more we get down, the more that we slap on. And when you're down here, it just really doesn't even matter. Just pop, 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 pop. But even though that we've just smashed on all these little bits of white, right, what have we left in between all those little things? Do you know the answer? What have we left? We've left all these little dark separators, just like we've talked about throughout this whole painting, right? Dark separators. That way, all the color won't be the same. It'll start to intermix with that darkness, and we don't want to go too far up. Right? Just about right there. Now, we're going to go back and do it one more time and then throw some paint at the canvas. It's going to be awesome. So, get a little bit more of our liquid white paint into our titanium white, getting it all sloppy on either side, but you have to use both. You can't just have titanium, or you can't have titanium white or just liquid white. Got to use both of them. Come up in here, a couple more little bright areas. Right? They're just random taps on the canvas that are going to look like falling water if we're just using the corner of our brush, right? Not using the whole brush, not coming at it from the side, just like we do with our little teeny tiny taps. Little side bits, except we're just smashing harder down here. Right? And then we come over here again. Lots of brightness, but what have we left in between all those little bits of brightness? Some dark separators. That's right. Now, here's the last thing. If we're going to go and we want our last step to be a bit brighter than our first step, we're going to have to go with much less pressure. Oh my goodness, such a light pressure, sometimes not even contacting everything, right? And you decide where your waters come down and hit, or if you want to have little bits a little further down and more details, where your water's coming down like that, right? coming down and smacking. Poosh! Again, we're going to throw paint at the canvas, so don't worry about what it looks like. Let's wash off that brush. And just like this, you guys start coming up with a name for this painting. What are we going to call it? I don't even know. You're going to have to type it out in the comments below. And I'm going to wash off this little tiny fan brush, and we'll come in for our last step. The final step. As we take our white, liquid white paint. This is the only time when you're allowed to use the pure liquid white all on its own. And you put it way out here on the edge of your palette. Now as you drag your brush through, it's going to drag the bristles back and then shoot them forward and get all these little spray bits everywhere. Check this out. The more you spray on there, the crazier depth you're going to have. So keep your little sprays coming out of our barrel. We don't want to make them too bright out of our barrel, right? Get a couple out of there. A couple above, a couple all over the place. Maybe go back, get a little bit more of our liquid white, because that just didn't seem to be enough, right? Back into here. There we go. A couple little flicks. The more you flick off of there, the more depth you're going to have in your painting. Honestly, it's amazing. Like the more you do, the more little flicks, the more little bits of water that are flying out, getting all over everything, making it harder and harder and harder to see all those details and stuff. That's what you want, baby. That's what you want. You don't want to see all the foggy mist. You want to see all these spraying bits of water. It's crazy. Now let's come out for the very last top and get our little bits of stars out in our sky of our universe out there. Very cool. Now we'll sign the painting. You guys are going to come up with a name. You're going to tell me what we're going to call this bad boy. And we'll get it all signed up and done. And then I cannot wait to see your versions of this one. It came out fantastic. Literally fantastic. And again, we don't edit these videos. We don't take out much. Only pretty much the brush cleaning section. Everything else, I show you exactly every step. Zoomed in, nice and close, baby. There we go. You know Paint with Josh is the best, so go tell everybody that you learned how to paint from Paint with Josh, and he is 100% the best teacher you've ever seen in your life, madam. All right, now, like I said, can't wait to see your guys' version of this painting. It turned out fantastically. And, you know, send them in to facebook.com/paintwithjosh. And until I see you guys again next time, take care. Have the rest of a good day. Bye-bye.